she says to me that when they carried you in the ambulance, I went up. I prayed. I said, Lord, bring my husband back. Bring him out as you brought Lazarus out, because I'm not ready to be a widow.
You're now tuned into LWC Radio Off the Record. Yeah.
Welcome to LWC Radio, where we talk about topics that are fresh, real, and relevant.
Yes.
And don't forget, Mac, that all of this is off the record.
Yes, off the record. Welcome, everybody. Yes.
So good to have you with us again. Another episode. And we
is
got
number
an exciting number 8. We're excited.
Yeah.
Things are going smoothly.
Yes.
And welcome, Lebo. He's the cameraman at the back there.
Yeah.
Good to have you, Lebs. And it's an exciting episode that we've got planned for you today.
Yes.
Such an awesome guest that we have lined up. And I'm sure you watching at home are going to have such an awesome time with us. And if you want to leave us a comment, just let us know what your thoughts are, what you're thinking, and how you thought the episode went, you know?
Yeah.
We'd love to know. And Mac and myself will be in the comments commenting with you.
As you watching,
And maybe we'll comment on one or two of your posts.
Yeah.
So
Cool, man.
exciting.
I'm ready.
You're
Yeah,
ready.
I'm
Mac,
ready.
You look like you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited.
Well, we're going to let's get going.
Yeah.
Introduce our next guest. We've got, he's an accomplished businessman. He's held in high esteem for his financial knowledge. He's an elder in Living Word Church and a key leader in many of our ministries. Welcome to LWC, Mr. Orlando Fernandez. Welcome. You can come up.
Yeah.
That's so good to have you.
So, yeah, this is cool.
Many people are going to be wondering, why are you sitting here, Uncle Orlando?
Yeah.
We're gonna get into that. I'm sure by the thumbnail you're gonna be able to know and hear a little bit about what's coming.
Yeah.
And so we're excited to have you. Welcome, Uncle Orlando.
Thank you, Newton. Thank you, Mac, for having me.
Good to have you. Yeah.
Are the lights intimidating?
No, they're okay. Okay.
Not too, it's quite a chilly morning, so
Yeah, you're in the spotlight,
at least the warmth of the lights is keeping us warm.
Yes.
So that's good.
How's that? It's so cold already and it's not winter.
I know.
Wow.
I'm not enjoying this weather.
But we're not dressed for the weather. But we're complaining.
Yeah. So, Uncle Orlando, it's so good to have you. And I'm calling you Uncle Orlando because I've known you for so long. Many people watching will be like, why is that guy calling Uncle Orlando? You know?
Yeah.
But it feels like it's a respectful thing to do.
That's
so I'm
true.
just going to keep with Uncle Orlando. So you at home just going to have to deal with that. And yeah, we've got an exciting, and I'm sure you're curious to hear. We've got an awesome testimony about Uncle Orlando, and he's just going to share a little bit more about his testimony and his near-death experience. So you're going to want to stay tuned
hectic, yeah.
and listen to what he's got to say and just his experience. And we're excited to hear it. I haven't heard the whole story, but I was part of it, so that's what excites me. And Mac was part of it. The whole team at Living Word is part of it.
Yeah.
So we're just excited to now hear the testimony. And but I just want to, off the bat, Uncle Orlando, you know, this we're now going into now April.
Yeah.
And you know, Uncle Orlando, last year this time, me and you sat down.
That's right.
And we were in lockdown. And we were probably about 4 weeks into lockdown, and we started the series called Friends with Wisdom on Facebook.
I remember that, yeah.
Actually, a year, I looked up the date, it was a year ago exactly to when you watched this episode. I think it was one day after or before that we had the Friends with Wisdom, and you actually gave you gave us some financial tips how to cope during this pandemic and the lockdown. And people were really grateful, and you were just really, we were really upbeat and positive, and yeah, so it got me to think, you know, can't believe it's a year since then.
Yeah,
how time has flown, and we go 9 months into the year, 9 months from that time, and the ambulance is at your house. December, what is the date?
27th.
27th, the ambulance is at your house, and you land up in the ambulance riding to the hospital.
That's right.
And I want to know, Uncle Lando, being picked up in an ambulance on your way to the hospital, what kind of thoughts are going through your mind? I know we're going to get into a little bit of why you were going to the hospital, but I just want to know straight off the bat, actually before we get there, before we get to that point, I would like to find out from you, what is your perception of people who say that COVID is non-existent?
Newton, thank you for the opportunity, actually, first of all, and Mac, and just to...
Pleasure.
I trust you go easy in with the question.
Yes.
So I'll be able to answer.
I will.
Okay. But COVID is very real.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think unless you've had some experience with COVID, now,
Yeah.
you cannot really say what COVID is going to do to you.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a car accident. You cannot say
Yeah.
how I'm going to come out of that accident.
Yeah.
True.
You do hear, people have had an horrific car accident, and they come out of it unscratched,
Yeah.
and nothing happened to them. And then you have situations where someone has had a car accident in the sense of not as aggressive, and all of a sudden there's been a fatality as
Yeah.
far as it goes. So COVID, you've seen people that have got COVID, they don't even know they've got COVID. Others, within 3 days, within a week, they've gone.
Yeah.
Others, they've managed to treat themselves at home. And others land up in hospital.
Yeah.
And fatalities have happened. So despite all the perceptions around it,
Yeah.
how it originates, whatever the case is, and where there may be a lot of credit overdue to those things,
Yeah.
and what it's doing to the entire world, the reality of the matter is that there is a
Yeah.
virus,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that is affecting people.
Yeah.
And the reality of the matter is that people are contracting in that virus, and there are outcomes, various outcomes as far as that goes.
Yeah, I must just say it's a little sad when people only take it seriously once, let's say, it affects somebody close to them.
Yeah.
Like until it happens to one of your family member, you kind of think, oh, well, it's not really real because I haven't seen what it's doing to me. So it's really sad because I've seen a lot of people's attitude are mostly that. Until it touches too close to home, they kind of just, they kind of brush it off their shoulder, but and then it touches close to home, then suddenly they want to take it seriously. And it's sad that it's always late by the time you realize I should have taken precautions.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's, if you don't experience it, then you
Yeah.
kind of have a different perception of the person who's experienced it.
Thing. True.
And but as you say, I mean, whether the perception out there is that someone created it, doesn't matter. It's still out there, and it's still affecting people. And so, no, I just wanted to find out what your thoughts were.
Yeah.
And Uncle Lando, you are now in this ambulance. We're going to get back to your story. You've been picked up, and you're now fighting for your life. And I want to know what kind of thoughts were going through your mind as you're lying in the ambulance, not before the ambulance comes, but you're lying in this ambulance and you're thinking, something is not good here.
Yeah. Newton, when I remember on the 27th, I'd fallen ill prior to that, and I don't, even the Christmas day I was in bed, not well at all. The 26th, I don't remember much about in the 26th, but I remember on the 27th, my son coming to my room and saying, the ambulance is on its way to pick you up. And I said, no, I'm not going to the hospital. He says, forget it. He says, you can get some oxygen and I'll treat us. And he passed me the phone of an experienced nurse and that we do know. And she said to me, listen, you don't get into that ambulance, you're going to die. My oxygen levels was about 55
Wow.
at that particular time. And she,
What is the normal oxygen
well,
levels?
you need to be above 90 to be
90.
functioning.
So yours was almost halfway.
Yeah, so it's you now
Very
you're in
critical.
serious danger. Yeah, and she spoke to me very, very precise in terms of what was happening, and she says, you're probably already in pneumonia and etc. And I said, okay, I'm not fighting this. I'm going to go into hospital. And then the ambulance got there very quickly. I don't know if the ambulance was waiting around the corner for me, but he got there very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I remember they helped me coming downstairs. They put me into the ambulance, and my wife said to me, come back to me. And I said, I will. And I got into that ambulance. I think the guy, and I'm sorry if I haven't been prepared to answer you. I'm going based in terms of the questions. May get a little bit emotional, but I'm just saying because it's very real.
Yeah.
So as I laid into that ambulance, I think the paramedics was more concerned about me than what I was. You know,
Because they knew the status of your oxygen,
I was in a fighting mode of survival. And he tried to put a drip on, he couldn't, and the vehicle started traveling and you're bouncing inside in the vehicle. And he kept on tapping on and actually my legs, stay with me, because he saw what the oxygen levels were.
Yeah.
He already put an oxygen mask. And when I got into the hospital, when they transferred me, my levels had dropped to 44. So during that period of transport from my home over to the hospital, it was almost saying, hey, I'm in here, the survival moment. And actually what was interesting is that the guy that was the paramedic he was more concerned. I found it to be more in a panic because he was seeing this is bad. And he was trying to keep me going, says, hey, stay with me, actually all the time.
And so was he doing that the whole way?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. The driver was the guy was driving, there was a guy.
And can you remember it quite clearly?
Oh, yes.
it?
Yes, absolutely.
Could be because they deal with those kind of things every day. So he's like, no, stay with me. So that, because.
Well, I think they realized the severity of the oxygen levels.
Yes,
and they
absolutely.
realized
Exactly.
that, hey, this guy's on edge here. We need to keep him going.
Yeah, because on our side, like if you don't know anything about what your level of oxygen needs to be, you might not take it as seriously as somebody who deals with that kind of situation every day. So that must have been quite crazy for him as well.
Yeah, kudos to the medical team on that ambulance.
Yeah.
I mean, Uncle Lando, just to give us some background. So, I mean, so you've jumped in this ambulance. Did you get COVID prior to this, or had you been tested positive?
I had.
How many days were you more or less tested positive?
I had been tested positive. What really transpired is that on around the 18th, I wasn't really feeling. It was almost like when you eat something and the food hasn't settled down.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel good. So I went to the doctor and he said, look, there's a bug going on, stomach virus, and I'm going to give you some treatment for that. But he said, but I'm going to give you a form, that if by Monday you're not well, that was a Friday, the 18th, you need to go and do a COVID test. I said, COVID? I said, what for? I said, what you on about? He says, no, you better go for the COVID test.
That's not real.
Yeah, because there's a spike, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, in the 18th I was sort of fine. I even went out for dinner on that evening. Saturday, Sunday, I wasn't feeling good at all. I mean, I came through to church and we had lunch during that day.
Yeah.
And then my mind was saying what was happening. And then the Monday was fine. I was 100%. There was nothing wrong with me. And I got up. I was all chirpy. Yeah. And I said, oh, well, there's no COVID test happening today. Yeah. And then the Monday night, I basically did not have a good night. And interesting, the family that we went out in lunch on that particular Sunday, which we had planned for a long time, and we were sitting across the table, and he wasn't feeling well. He had the COVID as well. He didn't even know it. And I had the COVID. I didn't know it. And then on Monday, I said, look, I got up, I had a shower, and I couldn't smell my perfume. And And then I knew something is not right. And we went for the test, and the problem then, it took 48 hours for us to get in the results of that. By then, I was in a bad state. You know, I was in bed, I was with cortisones and vitamins and all sorts. We had humidifiers and etc. And I was in a bad state.
Sorry, while you're talking about that, when you get tested for something, waiting for the results, did the anxiousness of wanting to know what the results would be also contribute to maybe the way you felt at that point?
You know, Mac, I was very passive about that, you know. And I was just obviously waiting. I knew that I wasn't well. I wasn't feeling good.
Yeah.
I already had a sense when on that morning of the Tuesday, when I got up and I put the perfume with the English blazer, by the way. I'm not advertising it. I'm just saying. And I didn't smell it. I said, wait a moment. I said, there's something wrong here. Yeah. And I took that and I sprayed into a little canister and to smell it. I couldn't smell it. I said, honey, I got COVID. And I said, so
like, honey, I shot the kids. No, honey, I've got COVID.
So anyway, so when the results came about, which was 48 hours later, the doctor phoned actually in my wife and said, look, your husband is positive. You better go for a test. Yeah. And she went for a test. My son went for a test. And they both had the COVID. So isolation started immediately. Already at that time, when I was not feeling well, isolation had began already. And then my other son went, he went with me at the same time, and he was tested negative while he had the COVID. He was tested 3 times.
Your youngest son,
before COVID showed up, and he landed up for 14 days in hospital, right next door to me. Can you believe it?
We'll get to that. Yeah. We'll get to that, Uncle Lando. We you know, in looking at that, would you have taken the COVID test on that Friday when you saw the doctor?
He said Monday. Yes, I would have.
Would you have gone straight away?
I would have gone, yeah. I think, you know, the earlier that you catch it, the better it is.
Okay.
So you would have been a little bit more... So do you think then your perception before having COVID-19 and going through this life... almost a life crisis in the sense you're just fighting for your life. Do you think your perception in the beginning was a little bit more passive towards COVID?
Yes, it was, yeah. I would advise that if you're not feeling well, see your doctor immediately. Don't let it, because the quicker that you can identify it, the quicker that you can sort of help yourself and treat it. Also, the mistake that sometimes people do, I would think, and I'm not a medical doctor, but you know, people not feeling well and hope that it just goes away,
it goes past
and just sits as a sitting duck. And I think that can be quite dangerous.
I think it was a difficult time in the year because I think, you know, we had just come out of the first COVID strain. And people were tired. They were coming into December. It was, people were getting a bit like, we're tired of this COVID story.
Especially with the lockdown.
We want to get out. We want to see people. We want to, you know, it was kind of cooling down. And then that second strain hit. And no one actually knew about that second strain. And do you think it was the second strain you had? That because they said it was a lot more faster.
And more potent.
And more, it was a lot quicker. It reacted a lot quicker. They call it the 5-1 something strain, you know.
Well, Newton, you know, we opened... some of our operations that we opened under level 4 under strict protocols. Okay, and we implemented policy to ensure the protection of people and etc. And never I thought that, hey, you know, COVID would really catch me in terms of the sense. It was something furthest away from my mind. I know it was there, it was a risk, but you also... as you become, how shall I say, confident, you tend to let your guard down a bit. And I think that is a problem for many people. You know, they sort of become, you know, nothing has happened to you, and eventually you drop your guard, and somehow how this came about. And then during that period, friends that I know, not even within our province, they got it. People that I had lunch with prior to December, they're no longer around.
Wow.
And this is the reality. And unless you go to that experience, you know, I say a word of caution. It is real in terms of that. So
Uncle Andy, you're fighting for your life. You're in the hospital now. They've now put you there? What medically, I mean, they diagnosed you with COVID. I mean, what else was it medically when you got to the hospital? What kind of medical diagnosis did they give you, or what was going through your mind first of all? I mean, first of all, you've now said your experience with this ambulance. Now the guys are nervous because they've seen your oxygen. How did that make you feel? Them saying, "Hang on, your oxygen is like this is on the edge. You could die any minute now." Yeah. What kind of things were going through your head when they said that?
In my mind, I just wanted to get back home.
Yeah.
I went to there. I says, you know what? I'm going to be here for 1 or 2 days, or maybe they're going to check me out. It'll be fine and send me home to be treated.
Yeah.
So when I arrived at casualties, it was like a war zone, really, because there was one bed available at that particular time, unless you at the Union, and they were busy. It was like a hype going on at that particular time. So before I was transferred over to the COVID Red ward, I was about 2 to 3 hours. So they brought me in. Then while they were filling all the papers, etc., they were very good at it, and then they transferred me into another. Into a bed in for examination. Yeah. At that time, when they took out my mask, in my oxygen mask, my levels had dropped to 44. Okay, sure. So the doctor, when she saw that, she looked at me like in disbelief.
Wow.
Okay, they put the mask on, and then she started hearing my lungs. She said, "I don't like actually what I hear." And anyway, I'm lying there, and then the portable X-ray machine comes around. And they take some X-rays, and a while after that, she comes to me and says, "You got pneumonia. You're going straight to the COVID Red ward." So COVID and actually the pneumonia are combined. And I even said to her, "Hey, can't I go and get treated at home?" Yeah. And she looked at me like I was crazy. She said,
"You're fighter."
She says, "You can't treat us at home." Yeah. I says, "You're going straight to the COVID Red ward." So I said, "All right," and that's how it went. Wow. And then I only saw the X-rays afterwards when I came out of hospital, and you couldn't even see my lungs. That's how bad it was.
So, wow. Do you think if they just only found that you've got just COVID and not pneumonia, they would have just let you go home? Or do you think their concern was now, okay, he's got COVID, now there's this problem with his lungs as well?
Well, I think that's when it gets serious. Yeah. When you have pneumonia on top of the COVID.
Yeah, okay. Like, I couldn't qualify that because I'm not sure how the doctors would determine at what level they would treat you. But in my mind, I thought, I'm just going in for a few days and I'll be out of here. Or maybe they will say, "No, you're good to go home." That's what was... But I was nowhere near that.
Yes. So your mind was there.
Yeah.
But your body wasn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Yes, yeah.
And so I want to know, Uncle Orlando, you're now lying in hospital in the ward, and here comes your son, your younger son, who got COVID, and I don't know the days, but he lands up in the same ward, sitting next to you. What sort of impact did that have on you mentally, on your mental health, in the terms of, hang on, now my son's sitting next to me. We're both sitting. What was the vibe? What did you guys say to each other? Here comes your son. You're probably out of it, and the next thing you see your son here. I mean, what kind of reaction did you have to that?
Look, I'm very close to my sons. And we're a very close family. So when he arrived next to me, the first thing he said, "Oh, great, I got company." Okay, so
optimistic.
So, but at the same time, I got concerned. Yes. I couldn't see him. Now, out of that COVID Red ward, it's quite a big ward.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Yeah. So he landed right next door, right to the next bed. I couldn't see him because he got these long blue curtains, to try and create some form of isolation. Okay. And the nurse said to me, "Listen, your son is right next door to you."
No way.
So I called for his name, and he answered. He was battling to breathe, and it was quite interesting. So, I said, "How are you doing?" And we're just sort of chatting, but I couldn't see him. In fact, at one time I tried to you have to try and look from around the curtain. But I was concerned, obviously.
Do you think it had an impact on how you your mental health?
No.
Were you feeling more anxious?
No. I think anxiousness really kicked in when reality really set in.
Okay.
You know how bad it was.
So it wasn't. So you were a few days before
Yes.
you actually
Yeah.
now getting to ICU. You were a few days in the ward, eh?
Yeah. Yes. Just remember that one of the processes that they will do, if you got COVID, they will admit you to a COVID red ward, which is a contaminated ward.
Yeah.
So they'll feed you oxygen because there's not really much. They can treat you for your infections and stuff like that. But COVID itself and your lungs and stuff, because it goes for your lungs, it goes for your liver, it goes for your heart, it goes for your brain, as far as this goes. But in terms of your lungs, it's got to treat itself. So they try and build up your oxygen levels, and if they can build that up, that's what happened to my son. After 14 days, he managed to get his oxygen levels, and then he actually went home.
So he was in hospital for 14 days.
14. I thought he was there for 5. I learned that afterwards. He was there for 14 days.
Wow.
So and you know and he was challenged because you know he's walking and his strength climbing upstairs and out of breath and all that. But that's what they try and do.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen, so when I went for a few days, they kept on saying to me, "Hey, you're doing great. You'll be out of here in a couple of days." And I was all excited, texting my family, "I'll be out by the weekend, by the week." And it was a long weekend. I want to tell you something. It was a couple of weekends that came after that. And then I kept on saying, I think it was 3 times, and I was all excited. And everybody was excited I was coming home.
Yeah.
And it was quite an endurance test. So I'm just saying... and then on the 4th, he arrived on the 1st
Of January?
January, yeah, if I can recall. And they said, "Your son right next door to you." And on the 4th, they come to me and said, "Look, we are taking you to the ICU."
Oh.
And so I remember very well when they changed beds, I just said to my son, "Cheers, boy, I'm on my way up."
Yeah.
So, and that's what happened.
I've known you to be a very optimistic person. You're cheerful a lot of the times that I see you. And because even the first time I met you when I came to Living Word, you always had this positive vibe about you.
Yeah.
But going through that, I wanted to ask you, did the fear of dying ever come across your mind now after what you were going through?
Wow. You know...
No, now they're telling you you're going to ICU. What is
with
the,
that,
What is your thought pattern? Yeah, you're like... You're
know,
thinking you're going home.
Yeah.
Now they tell you, no, listen, you're going
taking you to
ICU.
You know, very interesting, Mac, that you say that. You know, the nurses in hospital, you know, they are under a lot of pressure, you know, and they warm up to you. You remember that you have to go through an adjustment.
Yeah.
You come from the comfort of your home into a hospital.
Yeah.
And you get some nurses, you can see there's a passion. But there was one guy in there, part of the team. I don't know what was wrong with the son. You know, but he kept on saying I was going to die. You know, and within
serious?
Within 3 days I was going to die.
Wow.
Because
Was he a doctor?
No, he wasn't a doctor, but he was part of the nursing team.
Staff.
It was a male, and he really, at one time, I became fearful of him.
Wow.
Okay, so it traumatized me to a point, and I did bring this up at the doctors to say, listen, I'm not so sure if this guy is under some form of trauma, whatever the case is. You've seen too many people pass away because this is COVID, man. This is COVID. Yeah, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. Within 3 days, you'll be gone. So when you ask that, the fear of dying, you know,
bad,
the question that comes with that is that you need to ask yourself, who are you?
Yeah.
And who's your source? And the thing of dying was never in my mind. Okay. I was fighting. I really believed that I was going to pull through this.
Wow.
Was never an option, and actually in my mind. As I got worse and worse, obviously there is a side that we will get through to it, but was not an option because you know there was a lot of messages coming through, and I kept on praying, Lord, speaking on the healing. To actually, and a lot of people, both in South Africa, overseas, they were just sending me messages, and that
Could you read the messages?
Oh yes, yeah.
Is it?
Oh yes, and I was responding, but obviously as I progressed into a lot of days, it became a challenge for me to respond.
Okay.
Because
So this is before it even gets serious.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is now-
absolutely,
So
yeah.
he's telling you, you're not even serious, and he's telling you, listen, you got 3 days and you're dead.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
important that because it's surrounding yourself with people that will be positive, that have the same positive
Yeah.
outlook. Because like you mentioned, maybe he's been around this thing, seen too many people die. He's just already written you off.
Yeah.
Without realizing, no, man, Orlando actually serves a God. So this is not going to be the way he is. But it's very encouraging when what you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure what was wrong with him.
Yeah.
But he certainly was an encouragement
Yeah.
to me. If he was trying to sow me some form of...
But do you
of-
think maybe that was the enemy trying to
I-
change your mental?
I really
your-
believe so. I think depending how much time that we've got, Newton, but I really believe that there was a demonic spirit, and in a sense, to try and disturb me and actually meant Sophia.
So you're now in ICU. You've been in hospital now almost 15 days. If I can put it in my head, just when I look at the timeline.
Yeah.
And they're now saying you're going into ICU. This guy's saying you're gonna die in 3 days, and then they intubated you, where they put a pipe in your throat. Did they put the pipe in and then induce you, or were you induced
No.
straight away, or how did that
Now,
work?
what
Uncle
happened was that when they sent me, the doctor came through and said, look, we need to take you to ICU and to induce forced oxygen
Okay.
to try and build and actually build up because it's not working.
Did your oxygen stay at 44 all the time?
no,
or was
no,
it-
no. When you
Did it increase?
Yeah, when you had your mask, it would go up into the 80s. As soon as you take your mask off, it just drops.
Okay.
So the next level that they do at ICU, they try and induce you with forced oxygen.
Okay.
And they put a mask on, and that's quite an experience. That mask not necessarily sometimes fits your face, and they had a smaller mask, and you can see that on my nose. Then they had to stitch after, it cut into me over that, and that is quite a bit of pressure in terms of oxygen. Your heart really pumps very, very hard, and if it bleeds towards the side of an edge of your mask, you tend to suffocate.
Yeah.
So, the sleepless nights, that mask wasn't really settling down. I used to hold that mask right through the night
Yeah.
to actually try and get through that. And I remember a couple of days in like that, I had really sleepless nights. But then after that, I don't remember then them coming to me, putting me out. I know that I came around and I was in intubation already. So they must have come through, put me off. And then what happened was that then they took that off and they went into intubation. So intubation will be your piping coming right down into your lungs and etc. So it's a whole
So
procedure.
now you are out.
Yeah, completely out, yes, yeah.
Nice.
So I want to know now, Uncle Lando, spiritually, what was there any sort of encounters that you had spiritually with God? Obviously, during this whole time you've been praying. I know the whole of Albertson's churches were praying for the hospitals. Our church specifically was going every single day to pray for you at the hospital.
Yeah.
What sort of spiritual encounters would you say you had, or did you have?
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more about that and what goes in your mind when you're out like that?
Yeah.
When you're induced and you.
Okay. Look, a very real experience for me, more real than what I'm sitting with you today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. For many people that will hear this, it may just be a fascinating story. For others, it will be very real. For others, will probably raise questions and about themselves. But interesting enough is that a month exactly before I was admitted, on the 27th of November, I had a word, and I've got it on tape, on recording, from a very good friend of mine and also my pastor. And that word was, it takes, nobody likes to hear that type of word.
Yeah.
People like to hear that you're going to be, the Lord is saying, you're going to prosper.
Yes.
And,
We wanna hear all the
wealth is going to
nitty-gritty,
come
yes.
onto you. Well, the word was that there was a demonic spirit, a murdering spirit that was going to come after you. And we needed to pray against that spirit.
Wow.
That was 30 days exactly on the 27th November to the 27th of December when I was admitted.
Wow.
When I was admitted, that hadn't sinked in. Okay. And I appreciate that word coming through because it's significant in what I'm about to tell you. So, and it takes to be a friend to tell something like that.
Yeah.
And when I went to ICU, and I want to tell you, just let's put that guy aside that he was trying to
Let's not focus
sow
on
and
that.
sow in the negative. That's not important.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of good nurses. They were there. They were compassionate. And there was the one nurse. This is when I landed up in the ICU. Now, prior to that, I'm going to tell you, people were sending messages, and my wife kept on speaking life.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things she sent right in the beginning was Psalm 91. And what I want to tell you, right at the end when we do the full circle, when I was then moved from the ICU back into Oasis ward, the nurse that was looking after me, she had a badge, Psalm 91.
Wow.
Very interesting. Okay. It's just a connecting of motivation, of hope, and of faith.
Wow.
Okay. But going back to that, I want to tell you that ICU, I want to tell you it's busy. Those machines, it sounds like the stock exchange. It doesn't end. There's people phoning and authorizations, and there's no beds. There's a bed, and people passing away. So, and you know that they sing and pray every morning there.
Wow.
Those nurses. And the one nurse, man, there were many nurses who just found they come and hold my, just to have that human touch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just to hold your hand.
Wow.
During that time.
Yeah.
It is powerful.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that this nurse came through, and she basically, I was lying in bed. This is before I go into the intubation.
Yes.
And she leans over me and she says, Orlando, I want you to tell you something. You need to plead the blood of Jesus over you.
Wow.
He says, because this is demonic, okay? And these are demonic spirits. They're coming for you. And you need to plead the blood of Jesus of your life. And when they do come, you can say, whatever damage you've done, but no more, because I'm covered by the blood of Jesus.
Wow.
So I just want to say to you, she had no clue of what was said a month ago.
Before that.
In your life.
And
That's
that
incredible.
connected with my spirit.
Immediately.
And then I know that people were praying all over,
Yeah.
they were praying all over, both here in South Africa, overseas, and the church was praying outside for 25 days in a row, every day.
Yeah.
20,
Breaking
25
bread.
breaking bread and
bread,
doing all that. And then the same, my pastor, I've known him since 1985. He was praying for me, and as a friend, he sends me another message. He says to me, you now got to fight this within. There was 3 things. When he said a month ago, 27th, the nurse, and he says, you got to fight this within. And I knew for a fact in my spirit something was going to go down. I knew I was preparing, this was preparation for spiritual war.
Wow.
And what I do remember is that, and this is very, very real for me, it's an experience that nobody can ever take away from me. Okay. And I remember that when my father, which I was very close to him, and he passed it away at the age of 91, he was a very strong man, and it was within 3 months he actually was gone. I knew that year he was going to go. And it was interesting, the very same friend, the very same pastor had said to him, you know, when you do not need to fear, because the Lord will say, well done, my good and faithful servants.
Wow.
And he wasn't say he was going to die, but I knew that year was going to go. And he did. And he said to me this, do not turn your back on God 3 times. He pleaded with me as a father, son, do not turn your back on God.
Sure.
And I remember that day when I went into a spiritual realm, and I saw 2 images. One was Uncle Trevor, that for many will actually know him, which is an apostle per se, a pillar of strength that had an impact in our lives right from the age of our 20s. And the other one was my dad. And these were two pillars, I can say, of when you put down your flagpoles and there's a war about to start.
Yeah.
And that is the two flagpoles of foundation. And then for a second, they didn't say anything to me. It was a much younger age that I'd seen them. They just had a smile on their face, but it was figures of authority, fathers. And then as that disappeared, the spiritual realm in the war started. I started pleading for my life. I started saying, by the stripes of Jesus, I'm healed. And this keep on saying, but who's your God? He says, where's God now? You're alone.
Yeah.
What stripes? At that time, I saw the people praying outside. And this would come and say, they're not praying for you, that's your funeral.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
So this is what was going on. And to a point to say, denounce God. Okay, denounce him. He says, who's the God that's going to heal you? You worship the prophets of Baal. You know, because you've acknowledged, you know, from a sense, you know, remember God is a jealous God.
Yeah.
And when this happened in my spirit, I ran into the courts of God. And I said, Lord, forgive me. I want to tell you, Newton, I never asked for so much forgiveness in my life as it was on that day. And I went, Lord, forgive me. Forgive me. And interesting enough, when I come out of hospital, they tell me that they were interceding for me in the courts of God on my behalf. The very same time.
Wow.
Okay.
And you came out of hospital 39 days or
After, 39 days.
So would you say this was like your 40-day desert experience as
Oh,
well?
man.
Where you were tested?
I don't know. I was waiting for that 40 and that one more day.
Yeah.
I said, I've been here for 39.
So
I might as
God
well
was
stay.
gracious.
You passed the test before, so it's like,
I might as well stay with board, make the
Yeah.
40 day. But you know what? I said, no, get out of here. And I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
You know? But someone says, just remember, there were 39 stripes.
Wow. This is incredible.
But you can relate that.
Yes.
But I'm saying at that particular time, and I want to say to you that I didn't know about this, but my family had received a call to say that your husband is terminal. And we've done everything that we can. They were trying to put me into an ambulance, take me to Pretoria. They said he's not going to make it. Trying to airlift me. My family were trying to go to Pretoria to see a pulmonologist that was well-renowned, was in carte blanche some time ago.
I just want to touch on that, Uncle Lando. You know, we're just talking about, I think, like, if you look at the support that was around you,
Awesome.
is probably what got you through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Besides you fighting internally and having this encounter with God, obviously that just changed your life. But I think the support that was around you got you through that. Like you said, there was dots all over, and you were just connecting them via your faith. You know, you're saying, seeing these things and saying, yeah, that's from God. That's from God. You know, connecting the dots. And so, you know, your family were incredible just behind the scenes, and I know that because we were in communication, you know, your sons, they were specifically very, very aware of what was going on. Obviously, you guys have got a strong connection, and they actually fought for you to have this operation. As you were saying, is a pulmonologist.
Yes.
Pulmonologist,
Yeah.
and this guy was in carte blanche.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was going around, so it was still new at the time. And I don't know if you know that this was the first time they had performed and actually allowed this operation in the Union Hospital.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
It was. I heard that was the first
For that case.
Yes. Yeah. It is a what they call a bronchoscopy. So you know they put pipes down. Obviously, that the process takes much longer to do that. But on my particular case, it was necessary. It was quick. They put down the pipes on tortoxis and they suck out your lungs. They had contacted my wife for authorization. And she says you could see that they were a bit nervous. And my wife said, listen, do everything you can to save my husband. You know, my one son is very practical. He says, you know what, if he's going to kick the bucket, let's make sure that we do everything we can. And so they did that. And when I came around, then there was the sort of the normal suction out of the side of the lungs.
Wow.
But after
So that was a turning point.
yeah, it was a turning. They cleared,
Physically.
But when you took out the intubation, there is a process. I want to tell you, because everything sits up at your lung stage. You must see the stuff that came out. It was just unbelievable, and that was quite an experience.
So you
it
were
was
awake then?
yes, yeah. When they take out in the
Incubation.
Yeah.
Intubation.
intubation.
So, just to go back to this encounter that you
Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
was there something in your mind? Were you visualizing things? Was it just verbal? How can you explain it in a
Newton,
what is there any way to explain
yes,
it?
yeah.
You
Let
know?
me tell you this. It was very, very real in that sense. It felt for me that.
Were you fearful while going through this?
I
were
wasn't
you at
fearful,
peace?
but I was fighting for my life. I was in battle. Okay,
Yeah.
I was
You
drained.
can still have the peace of God.
I
but
was
going
drained.
back into that.
Yeah, I was very drained. Okay, now I want to tell you this. It's like I've never been at the bottom of the ocean, but you see movies or documentaries when at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
It felt like that. You
Yeah.
know, the darkness. But I wasn't in. It was an experience of being out at the bottom of the ocean. I was in the spiritual realm,
Yeah.
and there was a light. You couldn't distinguish the size of it, but there was a light, and this fight kept on taking place.
Yeah.
Okay, and I felt blades passing that but it wouldn't touch me. There were blades in terms of that.
So there were visual.
Visual. Oh yes. Oh yeah. And even came to me, and then when I pleaded for the blood of Jesus, you know, it says in this came, who do you think you are? Are you better than Paul? Are you better than Peter? Are you better than John?
Jesus,
You know, see how these guys have died, and they were close to Jesus. Who do you think is he going to come for you? Who do you think you are? Okay, so these were battles, very real battles. And then it came to a point of realization. I want to tell you, during that time I was very trained. And I realized something. You know, I said, being absent from the body is to be present with Christ.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when that happened, all this stopped. Okay, because the enemy will attack you in two areas of your life, your mind and your flesh. Because that is the sore points. Your mind to inflict you all sorts of perceptions and stuff to derail you, and your body to inflict you with pain. I mean, if you look at Paul and you look at John the Baptist and all those guys, if you really studied it, the Bible gives an account of how they died. But they stayed faithful right to the end, because being present from the body is to be present with God. And when I realized that the enemy knew, you know, he could no longer do, because the whole goal during that time was to have me to denounce God. Now you can understand, don't turn your back on God. And then when that happened, I saw Christ at the cross.
Oh, wow.
And I began, in my spirit, I began to weep. And I realized, Lord, what you went through. This is so a small taste. Now you need to understand that was a turning around point for me. Because remember, Christ was tempted. The Bible tells us when he fought for 40 days, etc. But the Bible doesn't tell us much. He does, to a sense, that he suffered the cross. But do you understand at that moment, when he laid in the cross, prior to him giving up his spirit, and he says, Father, why have you forsaken me? And he took the whole sin of the world upon his shoulders. I believe, and that's what I sense, that was the biggest moment of the greatest temptation on his life by the enemy, to see if he could overturn in the plan. Because at that time was his mind, it was his body that he was doing. And how Christ fought with the word. Okay, even prior to the time. And there at the cross, he fought by fulfilling the will of the Father.
Wow.
So that was so important. And when Dad said, oh, Lord, forgive me. And then I was so tired. And then I said, Lord, I surrender my soul to you. At that time. And I felt gravitating towards that light. And I felt my body shutting down. And I felt a separation beginning to take place. And then I looked down again. And I saw my family. I saw my sons. I saw my grandchildren. I saw my wife with her head down, wet. And I said, but Lord, is this the end of it? is this the purpose? Is this the plan at such a young age? I said, is this really it, Lord? But unto your will be done.
Wow.
And then when I said that, I stopped grativating, came down, and I came around.
You know,
Okay.
interesting that you say that, because you mentioned about the word that you had, and just I'm also now connecting all these dots and how this whole thing just rounds up to what you're just saying. And you kind of just answered my question before I could ask it, but I want to just tell you that most people, when they receive a word, they're expecting all the bells and whistles, like this will happen, you'll be prosperous, you'll be all of that. But with what you're saying, you actually got closer to God through an experience that most people would not welcome at all. They'll say, but no, this can't be God, because if God was real, I often hear a lot of people saying, if God was real, none of this would have happened. But you are sitting here and you becoming a testament of to say, you know what, God has a plan that's much bigger than all of us. And the way he gets you closer to him is not always about you winning the lottery, for example.
Yeah.
But sometimes it could be through an experience where, like you said, you got to a point where you said, Lord, forgive me for everything. And for me, I find that encouraging. So my question was, do you feel this experience has even brought you closer to God? But you've kind of summed it up already.
Well, how do you feel?
And I'm encouraged by that, yeah.
What I mean, you can say that.
Yeah.
I mean, because it became reality.
It became a
at the
reality,
time.
exactly, yeah.
You had no other choice, you know. Do you feel that you've...
Absolutely. Look, Newton, Mac, you know, when I came out of hospital, I couldn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
When I tried to explain to my family or to a couple of friends that I got very emotional about it.
Yeah.
Tears run down my eyes because, as I said to you, that was so real to me,
Wow.
more real than when I'm sitting here with you. And that experience, nobody can take away from me.
Yeah.
You know, for even a couple of days, I couldn't pray. You know, I didn't know how to pray.
Wow.
You know, because of the awesomeness of God.
Wow.
And many times we as Christians, we treat God like he's a servant in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, we park him in the corner, and when we need him, we call him out. Only when we have, oh Lord, help me with this. There's a lot of things that we pray for that, you know, in my experience, is not important to God. You know, some things that we spend our life focusing on, that is, it's of no value.
True.
At all. And we make that the beginning and the end of our lives. We focus so much and ends up destroying families. It ends up bringing all sorts of depression and missing the goal and the purpose that God has in for your life. Yeah. And that was very real for me. It's foolish in the sight of God.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, you know, coming back into reality, into life, it is challenging.
Yeah.
In that, and that's
You've had
because
this
when you're gone,
encounter.
all these things are gone.
Yeah.
It's immaterial.
Yeah.
You know, all the papers and all the contracts. And,
Doesn't matter.
and it doesn't matter. It's gone. But the reality coming back, and I pray, God, what is your purpose for my life?
Wow.
And that I don't miss that, because He gave me a second chance.
So, you know, I just want to go back, because when you had this encounter and you woke up, what sort of emotion or feeling? Because I mean, I suppose you're out of it. You know, you induced, and now they wake you up. What kind of like feelings, in terms of spiritually, with how you felt? Because obviously, before you hadn't gone through this whole thing. Now you've gone through this whole thing. You've had this experience with God. When you wake up now, you like realized, hang on, I'm awake. What kind of emotion did you have? What kind of...
I'm going to tell you a little bit of a funny experience that happened to me. When I woke up, I didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
So I woke up and I look and I see all these machines going, and I see the guy sitting across on the table. And somehow in my mind, I kept on looking, thinking that I'm somewhere in Houghton on 183 and 183 and 193, and I'm in some COVID experiment lab. So now,
brilliant.
and listen, this is quite frightening.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I see this same guy comes And then she comes along, that keeps
Says
on
you
saying,
made it.
no, he comes along. I remember him saying into another guy, says, I don't believe the soak. The soak stays awake the whole night prior to it. He doesn't sleep. That was prior to going into that.
Yeah.
But anyway, he comes along, and I say to him, phone. And remember, I have all these pipes and all this stuff. And he says, what did you say? I said, phone. He said, what did you say? I can't hear you. He knew he couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
He knew where I was. So I asked him for a pen. So then he throws me a pen. And then I said,
Throws it to you?
Yeah, he throws it to me like
Wow.
this. And I grab it, and now I'm tied down. And I can't, and I try and sit. And even the nurse looked at him, and he passes me. And I write, I say, family. She says, phone. I write, you got to write, your vision,
Wow.
your eye, your hands are trembling, letter per letter. He says, no, you can't have your phone. Anyway. Now I'm sitting there and I'm saying, this is a lab and they're experimenting human beings here for
You've
COVID.
been abducted.
So anyway, and I
Wow.
got to get to my phone.
Yeah.
So then the physio therapist comes along, nice lady, and I said, please, can you get my phone? She says, no, I can't get that. I'm going to get into trouble. I can't get you the phone. And anyway, I write it down because I couldn't talk, I write. She has the phone, and says, yes. But I don't tell her where the phone is, because just in case she's made up with them, she's going to take my phone away.
Wow.
So anyway, this is quite a funny story. So I'm lying in there, and etc. And then eventually I say, wait a moment. I start monitoring the guy,
Yeah.
and I start untying those handcuffs that they put on you.
Yeah, that sounds like a
Took
movie.
It sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
So I had a very long one. I couldn't do any one. I had a very short one.
Yeah.
And then and my hand was all bruised black. And I tried, this is the one I got to go for.
Yeah.
Now remember, you're lying in there, the guy's sitting on the other side. It took me about half an hour to figure that thing out, and I untied myself. And every time I look, I pretend to be asleep, And then now I got to give my hand to go and untie the big one.
Yeah.
Okay, and the big one, you can't put it underneath your sheets because you got piping and you got drips and all sorts of things. You got to go over, so it's more of a motion.
Yeah.
So you got to do all that carefully, and you untie. So I managed to untie both hands,
Wow.
and I lie in there waiting for my moment. And I'm figuring this guy, the phone calls coming in, figuring out where's the in and out of the doors, and eventually I make a move for it.
No.
You leaped out of bed.
Yeah, I make a move for it. So I get up and I took all the pipes from it. I break those pipes, the incoming pipes.
Oh my
I
word.
pull that off and I get up to jump off the bed to go onto my phone that's in my case. And hardly I knew all those pipes as I get up. I didn't get far because the whole thing strangled me.
Oh,
I just
my
sat there like this. And the machines, the alarms, they start going off like crazy. And these nurses are running. And they scolded me from here to Cairo. Says, look what you have done. He says, you broke the pipes. And now they went on and on and on. Anyway, they managed to put everything back and they tied me. Anyway.
Properly this time.
And then I said, now I'm planning the grand escape. You see? So I says, now I got to figure out where's
funny.
the exit.
Yeah.
Because I got to make a run for it. And then I keep on thinking, but this looks too professional. Because I'm seeing phones coming in, they're looking for beds. And I'm saying, my man, oh no, don't you come here. This is a lab. They're going to test on you. So anyway, so this is going through,
Yeah.
And it was quite funny. But very real and very frightening, actually.
Yeah.
So
Imagine.
I'm trying to make the great escape.
Yeah.
And I start wanting to move another doors that side. So I got so much time to get to that door. If I run outside, well, if it's a lab, will there be dogs outside? Will there be the security guards
Wow.
outside? Would I be naked by the time I cross the road and ask for help? Like the real story, Anyway, I said, no, that's too much of a risk. They're going to catch me before I make it to the door. I got to get my phone again.
Yeah.
So I began to untie myself again.
Yeah.
Okay, and I managed to get loose. Anyway, that commotion goes on for quite. And then they found out I untied myself, so they come and they tie me down again.
Oh.
And then the doctor arrives. And I say, doctor, she said, what is it? And I said, so she said, give him a pen.
Yeah.
And I said, paper. So I write family, letter per letter.
Yeah.
And I said, phone.
Yeah.
And she said, do you want your phone? I said, yes. I nodded. So she says over to the doctors, get his phone. She says, we don't have it. I said, my case there.
You knew exactly where it was.
So he says, go get it. Now remember something, Newton. I'm lying in there. The phone is off.
Yeah.
Okay. My nails I look like eagle nails,
Yeah.
overgrown. My beard, I'm shaking. Your eyes are seeing them. And now I get my phone. I got to switch it on. And the nurse, and then I said, prior to that, I said, untie me. And the doctor said, untie him. And then I said, you got to untie him. He says, yes, untie him. Loosen him. And they all come around me. There must have been about 5 nurses.
Ready for the great escape.
So I'm lying there with my
What are they
phone.
worried about?
And I see this nurse getting close to me, bless her soul. And I say, what do you want so close to me in my mind? You want to look at my pin? So you got to take my phone. So anyway, I sort of switch on the phone and try and put the pin very close to my chest so she wouldn't see it.
Sure.
And then when I look at the phone, there's no signal.
Uh-oh.
Then I said, these oaks have jammed the signal. Now, I don't know at that time what I was going to do. The adrenaline was running because my mind wasn't about me. It was about my family.
And getting
So
to
I've
them.
lost contact. Thought I'd lost contact for about 5 days. In fact, much more than that. About 7, 8, that was 11 to the 18th. So I lost contact. Are they looking for me? My family, my wife, my children. And this was the thing that was going on in my mind. I need to make contact. And all of a sudden, the signal comes in. So the first thing I do before I enter in any discussions, and I got this all on thing, I send by location. And this is the first time that the crowd are praying outside. They hear from me.
Yes.
Wow.
So, and I'm saying, call the police. I says, there's something going on here. So anyway, when they hear by location, they all get excited. Says, because the very first time they hear from me. And then the next one they say, he says, I said, I don't know where I am. I said, but this doesn't look right. And they said, and everybody gets excited. And then I said, it doesn't, it doesn't. And then I said, he says, we know where you are. And they send me their location. And I still looked at that and I said, call the police to investigate this. And then my son said, relax, Dad. You're in good hands. Just don't fight it. Relax. We know where you are. And at that time, I just switched off the phone. And I was comfortable.
So, Uncle Leno, I just, I was there at the hospital when that phone call came. And, we'd been praying every single day as a group, as a church. It was such a privilege, actually, to have been able to do that. And that day, when we had just finished praying, I remember your wife shouting and saying, we've just received communication. And we had just finished praying. And it was such an encouragement, even though we had a good laugh at what your message was saying, because we knew this guy's okay. But for us, it was a relief. It was like the most awesome thing we could have heard. And how we feeling and how you feeling. And it was just so cool to experience that. And it's such an amazing story if you think of it. And I think, we haven't got the whole thing. I think there's still a lot more that we can still uncover. But I want to know, Uncle Lando, for people watching out there going through something similar, it might not be COVID, but it might be some other situations where they are struggling in their life and they're fighting for their life. And what sort of advice or sort of encouragement could you give those people that are listening?
Look, Newt, Mac, is that I have no doubt in my mind that I'm here today by the grace of God.
Amen to that.
And I think one of the things that we've got to be careful, the worst enemy is condemnation comes upon your life. People will say, you're sick because there must be sin in your life, or you're sick because you've done something wrong. This is a punishment. And you got to be careful with those type of things. Okay, then we can look at the apostles, how they gave their lives right to the bitter end. They, we would expect that they would have earned some accolades, and they didn't, but they stayed faithful. If you look at Job, his wife turned his back on him, and his friends even saying, you know, you committed sin, and the other ones would say you even deserve a worse punishment. So be careful with that, because people try and associate when Jesus healed the people and said, you know, sins are forgiven, sin no more. Would that be related directly over to your illness or what? Things do happen. Okay, we live in the worldly sense. But one of the most powerful things that you can have is to speak the word, to speak life.
Amen.
Friends all over, and I must say even from different denominations, different backgrounds, they spoke life.
Wow.
Okay. The church spoke life. While my wife had received the call to say your husband is terminal, she spoke life. It's not nice to receive those calls. So she, you know, I must say she was emotionally in for it. She says to me that when they carried you in the ambulance, I went up. I prayed. I said, Lord, bring my husband back. Bring him out as you brought Lazarus out, because I'm not ready to be a widow. So I'm just saying, you got to speak life. I happened to go through all the messages again, because hundreds of messages. While I was intubated, there was life being spoken over it. While I was in that spiritual warfare, there was pleading for my life. It came to a point that I surrendered it, but I knew who I was surrendering it to.
Wow.
Sure.
Okay, so what I can say to you out there is that the support, I mean, one of the doctors actually came around, and I can't remember what doctor it was a lot, and he tapped on my leg and says, geez, you're a fighter. And I said, well, I had a tough time. He said, no, it's up here. You know, and you know, and to a certain extent from a worldly perspective, if you speak death, you're going to reap that. You speak life. This is besides what is the purpose and plan that God has for my life. In terms of that, He brought me for a reason, because I was done. But I'm saying to you, when you're going through that, it's just your family, your friends. Man, I didn't know. I was overwhelmed by the love, by the support, by the prayers. You know, I never knew. I know that I have contact with hundreds, but I never knew to the extent that it made, you know, almost that all of a sudden. I mean, I remember the first day I said to the doctor, I've got getting some anxiety, and you know, and they gave me some tablets to actually calm me down, you know, at night. And I used to say, hey, where's that cuckoo tablet? That cuckoo tablet's good.
Cuckoo tablet.
But anyway, I said, I need to see my family. 30 days I've been here, I need to see my family. And she said to the nurses, prepare him, get him the mask. Actually, but he hasn't got COVID, because after a week he being in hospital, COVID was gone. And then I was concerned. I found my wife, and we were all excited. But I said, there's a lot of people praying. I'm scared they'll come close. And she says, don't worry about it. So they bring me down. And there was the two nurses, I think 2 or 3 nurses. I was on the wheelchair, an oxygen bottle. And as I come around the corner, I see all these people running. And they said, and they say, hey, who's those people? I said, they're my friends. He says, no, you're not going outside. You're standing right here behind the window, and say hello to them. And these people were going crazy. You know, they were jumping up and down with placards. I don't know how to react. I was going, so I'm just saying, you know, I was just going, you know, they were going crazy. You know what? And what it was, I didn't know what had happened. But they had experienced the miracle.
Wow.
And they were joyful because God had answered their prayers.
Man.
You know, and that just shows the love and the support. I can never forget that for the rest of my life.
Wow.
You know, and the people that really took their time and the sacrifice to be there. I mean, that was awesome. Awesome.
Well, I'm so excited, Uncle Leonard, just to hear your testimony and just have you on. 39 days fighting for your life. What a testimony that you have to share. I'm excited for the plans and the purpose that God has now brought you back onto this earth for. And I'm sure you're excited to align with whatever God has got for you. And I'm sure it's changed the way you're doing things at the moment. and this, like you say, the small things, I suppose material things are like nothing for you anymore, because I think you've gone through something that no one can really explain, and also no one can really touch. It's yours, you know, it's your testimony. So I'm excited for everyone to hear this.
Yes,
Are you?
I'm excited. I think this is probably one of the most meaningful ones that we've had so far. I mean, we've had great guests, but this testimony from a first-hand experience of what God can do through a difficult time, for me, that touches home a lot more.
And
than
I think because it was somebody that was so close to home, that it becomes a lot more real for us, you know.
So I'm certainly happy that we had you here, and I'm encouraged. I think I'm going to walk here feeling different as well, looking forward to what God can do.
I just want to say this from my side is that, you know, when after I saw the doctors, I was just amazed. I mean, when I came around, the doctor was saying, "Glory to God," clapping his hands. You know, he says,
a miracle.
And it was a miracle. And they were fascinated also. They said that my recovery process would take 6 to 9 months. You know, remember that your strength levels and etc. and all that. And when I went to see the doctor, there was a hospital doctor. Look, remember a whole lot of doctors involved, as well, a home doctor and etc. and other doctors. And they're just amazed at the recovery. You know, the one doctor said, it was a fiasco note. So I'm just saying, because what they saw, what they experienced. And I want to thank the doctors that got involved. You know, sometimes people, they're doing an awesome job in very difficult circumstances, risking their lives. The nurses at the Union Hospital, and really the drive and the passion. It's not easy under those circumstances. And I want to thank the church, my friends, people all over the world that stood behind. And the second thing to my family, I think I know, we're a strong family, the support, my wife, my sons, my grandchildren, my daughter-in-laws, and that just brought us, you know, just makes a team bolder, build a stronger team, and for that, and I pray that, you know, as we get back into life, that I do not miss what God really has.
Amen.
At this point in time, I cannot say at all, but you know, I just want to be obedient. It is a process. It is a timing issue, and it is within His time.
Amen.
And that I don't fall back into the same rut of things that before. And I think there's definitely a purpose in terms of this. It wasn't coincidence that happened. Right from the 30 days prior in hospital, the nurse, fight within. Don't turn your back on God, and pleading for your life, and then saying, being absent from the body to be present with the Lord, and saying, unto you I give you my soul, and then saying, Lord, is this the end of it? Unto you will be done. And people were praying, and they came back. And I'm just saying, I'm trying to make as simple as possible, but I want to tell you, Newton, it is real. God is sovereign, and it is real.
Amen. Wow.
Well, we thank God just for bringing you back, especially to be able to talk with us today. And as you know, Uncle Land is a crucial part of the team at Living Word Church. So we're just so thankful to God for just bringing you back to life, and this testimony that you're able to share with us. We're really touched and grateful for it. Thank you, Uncle Lando.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mac.
Thank you,
Newton.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thanks for everyone for watching.
Yes.
It was such an awesome episode, and we hope that you enjoyed it.
Yes.
If you want to just leave us a comment and maybe just hit the like button.
Or maybe even share some of your experience of how God came through. That would be encouraging
Actually,
to see.
the best thing would be to share it with your friends.
Yes.
I think this is such an encouraging word and testimony to be able to share with people out there, because we need to get the positive word out there and speak life over everyone. So share it with your friends and your family, and we'll see you next week on LWC Radio, Off the Record.
Yeah.
Cheers for now.